Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. And sorry about the slight delay, but the various things were going on. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is maintaining. Oh no, we're actually not a maintaining frame. I figured
It's a
this would
dating.
be, yeah, it's more appropriate that it's a dating show, and
Exactly.
we're gonna be talking about the I would say pretty popular sort of game theory PUA guy Alexander Grace
Mhm.
coming to terms with reality. And unfortunately, this is just the sad truth of it. Yeah, women are not in the place that I guess PUA types could benefit from, and he has done something that I have not seen uh, really at all from anybody, which is an admission.
Mm,
It's so refreshing that I thought it should have a show. So
mm.
I'm the one who suggested this one. Um, I think, you know, there's a place for responding to people like Manifestel, but I'm getting to the point now where if they become extremely predictable, like where they're gonna land, which is always the same place, I don't really. I just need a change of pace. We can respond to her in the future if you guys got like some kind of weird fetish about it. But I just want to take a break and look at somebody else for a little
Look
bit.
at
So
someone
I
who can
suggested this.
maintain some kind of logical thread with the things that he says and actually can self-reflect.
Well,
There's a break.
yeah, I mean, I think that that's why I thought this video would be good, because I think there's something that he is seeing that I think needs to be looked at.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think we've been saying this for a while, but now, like, these kind of like game theory PUA type guys, they're also like,
Yeah, how much is
realizing
this?
this. So
Okay, so I was watching, I believe his name is Psychax, and he talked about how if you want to appeal to a male audience, you essentially give them an outlet for their anger at the current situation. I wonder how much is pickup artists realizing that there's sort of been a sea change, and a lot of men are turning away from dating, not necessarily because of the obstacles, but because the reward, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. In other words, like they've based like an average or a below average woman expects so much and gives so little that men are just like, well, it's not really worth it. And even a woman who's attractive is an incredibly unpleasant companion and a huge financial liability. And a lot of men are just, why? And here's the other thing: like, women are making it abundantly clear that love isn't on the table in terms of relationships, that they will maybe consider you a useful convenience. And I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to exaggerate. I'm repeating what I'm seeing from women overwhelmingly. Like the overwhelming message from women on TikTok, on YouTube, is that they don't love men. They don't think they should have to, and to be in a relationship with one. And yeah, they want you to jump through the hoops. They want you to make her feel desirable, and they don't want to offer anything because they are the table. And I don't know if this is precisely the entire female gestalt. I'm sure a lot of this online stuff is just targeted towards women who want to still be right while they exist in the shambles of their own lives, so that they don't have to, because it's better to feel right about everything, even if you're miserable and your life is a smoking crater, than it is to feel like you've made a mistake, even though if that is pointed out, you might be able to fix it and no longer live in a smoking crater, right? So it's better to feel right and sink with high Brazil than admit that high Brazil is sinking and save your life. You see what I mean?
mhm.
And yeah, so that's the overwhelming message I'm hearing from these women. It's just justification for why women are failing in their relationships. And I know that this sounds like the reverse of the incels, but the incels don't even get to the point of having relationships that they can fail in. And most of the guys who failed in their relationships, maybe they were personally not as good as they could have been, but did they deserve to lose their children and their house and their income to women who then marry men who make more? Like, it just seems so one-sided. And then again, it all starts with that incredibly one-sided narrative that men oppress women. All right, I'm going to do the things and then we'll get into this. So if you want to send us a tip, and with that tip, you want to say something that you'd like us to address, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We get the full benefit of whatever funds you send, and you get the opportunity to send us a comment, and we'll read it on air. And sometimes we also pull up comments from the chat if we see that they're really interesting. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us those tips. And our monthly fundraiser is open at feedthebadger.com/support. I know I haven't done many shills in the recent months, but maybe I will pull one out of the dusty, cobwebby recesses of my heart for this video. But anyway, stay tuned for that. If I'm able to manage to what's the word? Create one. All right. Anyway, feedthebadger.com/justthetip if you have anything you want to tell us and you want to send us a tip. Boy, that was like the most lame one I've done. Sorry, guys.
What do you guys think of my Nakatomi Plaza Christmas Party 1988 t-shirt? I don't know if you guys were there, but came to the coast, had a few laughs. If you guys get that reference, let me know in the comment. You have to, though. It's totally a Christmas movie. Anyway, let's get into Alexander Grace's video. This is called We Are Done. And as I was going to say, Alexander Grace had a pretty popular channel. He's got about 370,000 subs right now. And it was a game theory, dating advice, sort of, relationship advice, coach type of content. A lot of times doing the Alex Psych thing where it's all about putting the agency, the locus of control on men. And he's been doing this for many years now, at least I want to say like 7 years. And he's come to a realization. He's had an epiphany about the absolute state of relationships. So
if you're a male and you're like, what the hell?
No, I was going to say it's basically the framework. Like the woman is like a feral tiger in the jungle. And here are the keys to approaching and capturing one. And then I guess he's come to the point where he's like, but why are we risking being mauled for something that will most likely eat us in our sleep? Okay. Anyway, sorry. I just wanted to.
No, it's okay.
I thought it was hilarious. It's like everything is on men. And it just occurred to me. It's like women are the tigers in the safari in this context. Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
If you're a male and you're like, what the hell? There's no good females out there to date. These are all trash options. What do I do? I was talking to my boyfriend the other day and he was telling me that he had such a hard time finding a girlfriend before he met me. And this is why. Tell me if you agree. So he would walk up to a lot of different females. That's basically what he did to me. That's how he found me, okay? And when he walked up to these females, he would say, hi, just like that, and want to start a conversation. He said so many people would just look him in the eyes and either just walk away, like straight up, look at him and just leave, or they would give him like the biggest resting bitch face and then be such a bitch to him that it's like, why would you even want to have a conversation? It's like you're talking to a wall or someone that like wants to stab you in the face.
Yep. And
so that he's gonna agree with that, and we'll get into that. But I wanted to pause for the banana. I think this is a really good video. And he's got another really good video that's related to this one that I also brought up because it talks about an experiment, a study that was done that I thought was pretty interesting. But first, I got a super chat, so I'm gonna just get it out of the way. Albernated Retro gave us $2 Canadian and said, "Okay, I'm here, so this is important. Thank you for that." Okay, so let's.
You know what? I would have completely thought that everything that we're doing is utterly useless, but now
up until now, yes. Thank you for validating us.
Thank you for validating our
I guess I've been wasting my time for 10 years doing these videos.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right.
Men are sick of it. You can only put up with being treated like you are subhuman for so long before you are just done. You quit, and that is what men are doing en masse.
Statistics show that 48 to 59% of single men between the ages of 18 and 40 have never asked a woman out on a date in the past year.
So I actually want to start out this video with an apology from me to my audience, because there is something that I have consistently gotten wrong over the years. I feel shitty.
Can you guys guess what it is?
Oh, this is the thing that we haven't gotten consistently wrong over the years. But, it's good to see the pickup artists finally picking up on stuff that we've been putting down like 10 years ago.
Well, I figure if anybody's they're gonna learn first, it's gonna be the PUAs. They're gonna be the first ones to figure this out. No, I mean, like, they're gonna be the first ones to deal with it in, like, in reality, like when it's gonna start to affect them, and they're gonna say,
yeah,
something.
but we were like, I mean, I know what you mean, but I think you need a qualification, because we exist now that we've been validated by Albert Nada Retro. So we exist, and we picked up on this a long time ago. And I know this isn't I told you so, but this is the stuff we were talking about. We're like, the pickup artists are like, oh, well, you can't question, you got to judge yourself by the worth of, and the red pillars in some ways are very similar. That's why Rollo blocked me, because I pointed out that he's still judging men's value by their ability to appeal to women. And we've been pointing this out for decades now, that okay, yeah, we can spend a long time talking about what hoops men need to jump through to appeal to women, but is it worth it? Like, I mean, and I don't even set aside all the bimbos on the whatever podcast and whatever else. Is it worth it when the family courts are the way they are? Is it worth it when men don't have protections, legal or social, against women's violence? Is it worth it when women are inculcated to an attitude towards men that includes believing that they oppress them, which creates a moral hierarchy with women on top, with women in the position of judging? Like, I mean, question these things. Look at these things. Does it matter? Is it worth it? Like I said, I just wanted to say, you said the pickup artist would be the first. I don't think they were the first. I think we were the first to start asking.
No, yeah. I guess what I mean is, will they be the first to apologize?
To apologize.
To us,
to apologize and maybe talk to us,
Yeah.
Like, ask us, well, hey, well, what do you guys see? What is it? Like, where is all this coming from? Because suddenly we're seeing it too. And you guys are all going to see it, because and I had this conversation, I'm like, everything in our politics, everything in our identities is all predicated on men being able to create a comfortable situation. Like, men are the ones building the couches that we're sitting on, having these discussions about rarefied aspects of our identity and politics and all of this other stuff. When men's productivity declines to a certain point, we're not going to be having these conversations, because we're going to be in a smoking crater. So everything is subordinate to this issue of the relationship between the sexes, and whether it's functional to motivate both to be productive. Like, everything is subordinate to it. Nothing else exists without that first working. And it's starting to break down more and more and more. So, it's like, this is big. This is a big problem. And we are spending so little time trying to solve it and trying to figure it out. In fact, I think that we might be some of the few people who do that. And I'm not even sure if other men's rights advocates have explicitly made that connection between the situation the men face and the ultimate destruction of our damn society. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure they've started to. I think it was the MGTOW that really made that connection first. But it's like, and then they said, you know what, we're quitting. We're withdrawing our productivity from a society that doesn't serve us. And again, men do not owe society anything. They don't owe anybody anything. They don't owe anybody their labor. And of course, okay, I'm gonna step off my step off. Yeah, Brian's
There's
nodding.
more. There's more. We want to
Oh,
get to
there's
it.
always
We're
more
just-
coming from me.
We're just starting the video. Yeah, like
Yeah.
save it.
Save it.
Albert Nada Retro gives us $2 Canadian and says, well, now you two know it was all worth it. All right.
Yes.
Continuing the video where the we're gonna continue the video now. He's gonna start his apology
about it, and I want to admit to you guys when I make a mistake, own up to it, say that I'm sorry, and I really mean this. I have rationalized and excused women's rudeness when men approach them for far too long. I focused on the man, I focused on game, and how men can overcome that resistance instead of analyzing that resistance itself and holding women accountable. Let me explain to you why I made this mistake. Understand, I came of age in the 2000s, and so I have never known what it's like to live in a culture where women do show respect for men. Whenever I saw a man approach a woman to try and talk with her, I routinely saw women laugh, ignore him, insult him, or just spend the interaction being rude to the man as a way of shit testing him. I thought.
Do you remember there was one tweet I sent to Alex Syke that I think ended up getting me a lot of shit, and I essentially said, or at least pushed back from him. This Alex Syke is not this guy though. I'm pretty sure, right?
No, not at all.
Alex Syke
Alex
is
Syke.
terminal.
Alex Syke looks like a construct of what a game
AI.
QA. He's got like a man bun and like a goatee, and this is Alexander Grace is a regular guy. He's like a real like dude. I think Alex Syke is like some construct, some golem created by the deep state.
Yeah, he's pretty terminal, but he was talking about these men who don't approach women, and I pointed out how much do men here like. Let's imagine two piles. Let's see. Are my hands in the here? Okay, let's imagine two piles. I look like I'm doing something lewd. Let's imagine two piles, right? And this pile is all the conversation that women have, everything that they express about men approaching them in a positive way. So in other words, I feel like it's great to be approached by men because it makes me feel good. It's an opportunity to talk to someone. I can meet somebody interesting, And then let's look at this pile, which is all the times that women express how men approaching them makes them feel. So everything from it's an inconvenience, he's rude, I don't want to talk to anybody, leave me alone, to oh my God, every time a man approaches me, I have an existential, like I go into a state of frozen horror and piss myself and shit myself a little bit because oh my God, a man is coming near me, and I have to have 3 years of therapy to even leave my house, and ask yourself, how big are these respective piles? How much do women say to men, do not approach us? At worst, at best, it's an inconvenience we find annoying and we feel contempt for you for doing so. And at worst, it is something that will change our lives for the worse. You will send us down on a pathway to a personal hell because you have approached a woman. You have approached a woman without her permission, and she doesn't know what you're going to do. You could tear off your human skin and become a bear and eat her. Like, how could she possibly know that that's not going to happen? So just don't approach women. And by the way, it's illegal in certain parts of the UK. Like, and he took that, and I said, okay, let's set aside your complaints that men are afraid of the possible negatives to themselves, right? Which I think are perfectly legitimate. Like they're afraid of going to jail for approaching a woman. Perfectly legitimate, especially in certain places in the UK and other places in the West, where they've basically effectively made it illegal for men to approach women in public. Let's set all of that, all the men who are worried about impact to them, a false accusation that ruins their life and the career, just by making a woman feel slightly uncomfortable. All right. Let's look at the men who actually really don't want to hurt women. They don't want to make women feel bad. They would feel bad if they made a woman feel bad. Like if a woman they approached her and she just dropped and rolled and just quivered and pissed herself, they'd be like, well, oh God, I just destroyed her life just by approaching her. That men don't want to hurt women. So if you increase the perception that even walking up to a woman is a form of trauma and torture that you're putting her through, you're going to reduce all of the men who are willing to approach women to those who don't care, or those who either think you're full of shit or those who don't care. Right? So I pointed this out, and he was like, that can't possibly be true. And I did a poll. Of course, it was my audience, and a good portion of men, that's exactly what they said. They don't approach women. It's not necessarily, I mean, it's a huge part.
It's not just the fear of rejection, although that is a thing, but it is just not just even like the genuine hostility, but there is like, if you fearmonger half the population about the other half of the population to the extent that they feel the need to call the police or some other authority figure against you because they feel this unsafe, or they can get you fired from your job, or whatever it is, yeah, you're going to create a chilling effect, and men are going to respond accordingly. And there's no amount of game or frame maintaining that's going to change that, because it's really not up to those men. It's not. It's up to women to like wake up and be like, you know what? I don't think this is true.
Yeah, well, it's up to women to actually reduce the negative effects of approaching them on men. Full stop. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They need to go big against feminists who are criminalizing men approaching women, because that's happening everywhere. They need to go big on reminding men that this is an essential activity for the human race to reproduce, and just suck it up. He's awkward. Okay, well, you just had an awkward couple of seconds interactions. Get over it. Don't exaggerate it. Don't turn it into some kind of emotional crisis you're never going to recover from. And call out the women who do false accusations when men interact with them for whatever reason. Like, and women have to do this. It's not on men. And I don't know, like, I'm Generation X, so maybe I'm sort of like, I look at this because I was no longer dating in the early 2000s, right? And I look at this and I'm like, this is a nightmare. I remember a time when dating was fun. Like, people would look forward to it. They'd be like, yeah, I'm going on a date. We're going to go walk down the river and we talk. And it was romantic and exciting. And you got butterflies in your stomach, and you did everything within your means. And there was no, like, I mean, there may have been a set of women who expected the whining and dining and stuff, but there was still a good population of women who just thought it was exciting to have fun with a man because it was a man. It's like that song, grab him because he's a man. They still had that energy, that there was some romance to it. And that's just like, I don't know. Why would you gauge in an activity that's so miserable? I don't even know if it's happy on the woman's side, because it seems like they're in this negative spiral where everything is about extracting resources from their date rather than enjoying it. Anyway, that's my I'll get off my pedestal. Let's keep going.
All right, I'm gonna play more of this. Yep. This is a short video, so it's very concise, which I also appreciate. See, when guys talk, they don't waffle on forever. They just say what they got to say. So
thought that was normal. I didn't really understand how truly fucked up that behavior was, because it's all I had grown up seeing. Like, a fish doesn't really know what water is because he's spent his entire life just swimming in it. I thought,
okay, it is really fucked up. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm sorry, Brian, but
that's all right.
This behavior from women in the initial stages of a relationship is horrifying. I mean, the initial stages, everybody's just like, you're really in the couple. You're really just enjoying the excitement of a new person and getting to know a new person and spending time with that person. The fact is that this dating landscape takes that excitement and it destroys it. And this is the most exciting time generally of the relationship. Everything else after that requires a bit more elbow grease, right? Everything else doesn't have that initial flush of hormones. And even in the very easiest part of the relationship, women are making it so hard. It's a nightmare. Like, this should be the most pleasant part of the relationship, and it's become a nightmare. So you can only ask yourself, if it starts as a nightmare, what happens when it gets a bit more difficult? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All
Okay,
right.
let's play some more of this.
Thought that shit tests and rude behavior were normal, and that it was perfectly natural for women to treat men badly, to say rude things to him just to test him out to see if he's confident enough to push through that resistance. In fact, one of the first videos that I ever released on this channel back in 2017 was me at the beach going up to women and asking them about this phenomenon of shit tests.
Have you ever given a man a shit test before?
Probably. Every time. I think I give men shit tests every day of my life.
See, I knew that this was real. I saw how rude women were when I was younger, but I never stopped to ask the big questions like, is it okay to treat men like this? Why do women feel so entitled to be so righteously rude and dismissive? I was young.
I'm just pausing it there so you can say something about that. The only thing I would say is that it is really difficult for men to look beyond themselves for the blame. Like, whereas, like, well, I must be the one not doing something right. And it's hard for them to say, no, actually, maybe these women are cunts. And maybe they're cunts because they've been taught that that's like normal. And they're also, it's not just like from, say, their parents or the peers they grow up around, but what if it's also because of other men who are like, no, it's okay. It's cute that you're like feisty. I like that. I like that you're feisty. And then women just like, oh, I guess this is what men like then. I'm just going to be like this with all men now. And yeah, I mean, like, men aren't looking for special favors, but just, being decent is a good start. But again, we don't encourage that. We don't expect anything from women. They can act however they like. And we're just supposed to suck it up. So, Allison, are you going to say something or are you distracted by the chat? The special chat.
I'm distracted by the special chat. I'm
Yeah,
talking
maybe.
to some guy called Sao Wei, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying, I'm pro woman, I got kids. You're not pro woman. You're pro whatever you think your reflection of women is that supports your ego. All right, let's continue.
Oh, brother. He's just looking for attention.
Yeah,
You guys
I
hate
know.
women. You've been here, what, 5 minutes? And you already know what we're about?
Yeah.
Fuck out of here. All right. Let's keep going.
I was horny and my mind just didn't think in terms of those big questions yet. I wasn't philosophical. I was just practical. Women are rude when you try and talk to them. Okay, that seems to be just a fact of reality. My only thought was, well, how do I overcome that? Like, if this is a game, what do I need to do to win? I was very ambitious. And when I discovered the seduction
exactly
community
it.
with like,
Okay. Is this really about women? Or is it about seeing yourself in terms of all of your competencies in overcoming this game that is called woman? You get what I'm saying, Brian? Like, is that really about the woman or is it about you? And like I was saying to Sao Wei, women are just a reflection of your own ego. And I don't mean that as like I think that's something to consider, something to think about. I don't mean this as like additional, oh, men are terrible and are to blame. But really, is this really about women? Or is it about point scoring in a game? And ultimately, like, is that respect of women that you just tolerate their bullshit without recognizing their humanity? Like, I'm like thinking about that video we showed, I think on Monday, of that kid in the store that's just being allowed to destroy stuff. I mean, that's a horrible way to raise a kid. You're raising a kid to be utterly dysfunctional in the world around them. Like that, you're not raising them to be able to function as a normal adult human being. You're raising them to be something that is completely incapable of integrating into society, being loved, developing discipline, developing any kind of sense of self. Like you're putting that kid in an empty void and allowing her to scream her guts out, asking who she is. Wow, that's so pro woman. All right.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's play some more of the video.
like pickup artist techniques, learning about game with detailed instructions on how to pass shit tests, frame control, teasing, flirting. I thought, great, okay, that's what you do. So I learned it, I applied it, I got very good at it, and my dating life took off. But I can see now that that's actually been my blind spot, and that's the reason why I'm apologizing. Because I couldn't see past my own experience. My focus had been exclusively on how to pass shit tests. My focus was not on whether or not this behavior from women was actually appropriate. Now, longtime subscribers of this channel know that this issue has come up lots of times before, probably in 4 or 5 different videos. You guys have roasted me in the comment section, which I deserved, but even getting that feedback, I couldn't see it. I didn't understand why men were frustrated with me. Like,
Can I make another observation?
Yeah.
It's like,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. You didn't understand it because you take your identity from jumping through those hoops that women set up. That's how you value yourself. That's how you see your self-worth. You know, every hoop that a woman jumps up is like 10 points, and Alex jumps through that hoop and gets another 10 points appended to his sense of value, you know, to his score. You know, and that's how you saw yourself. And you had trouble understanding a different point of view, which is often what's happening in the special chat. You have trouble with the idea that women aren't an obstacle that you score points from overcoming, and that women are actually beings who themselves require points to feel like they have worth. I know that's really simplified, but you know that maybe men should stop seeing women as an opportunity to score self-worth points and start realizing, hey, women themselves need opportunities to score self-worth points. And the way that you give them is by saying, stop doing that. Your behavior has to change. You have to become a better person. You have to gain skills. You have to gain self-mastery. This is inappropriate behavior. Stop tantruming. Stop breaking things. Stop doing shit tests if you want to have a reasonable outcome. And furthermore, you think those girls, like that's 2007, it's like 9 years later, you think those women are still going to get away with their shit tests when they're in their 50s? You know, what happens? You know, the wall is up into a point. Women get away with their shitty behavior, and then they reach a point where they no longer get the freebies that, you know, men all see themselves in terms of jumping through their hoops as some kind of value. That goes away, and now they're left with all of those habits, of the habits of then the expectations, and nobody's pampering them anymore. Right?
Yep.
That's what you guys are setting women up for. That's not love. That's not love. It's not, it is not even like. It is selfishness. Right? Sao Wei is a selfish man. Selfish, self-involved, inwardly focused. The men who set boundaries with women, who establish their expectations of how women are supposed to behave, who expect women to act like adults, who give women reasonable consequences for their shitty behavior, those men love women. Well, they love specific women. And that's the only kind of love that matters. All right.
I will say though, big ups to him for, you know, having the integrity to admit this. This is very rare. Like, I mean, not just in this space, but like in general, the ability for people to say, you know what, I was wrong. I mean, it's like why everything is so shit right now mostly is because people have so much pride that they don't have the will to say, yeah, I think I backed the wrong horse on X, you know? So anyway, let's continue.
was sincerely trying to help. I was explaining the psychology of why women are rude to men, the evolutionary basis, what purpose they're serving, what they're looking for in men. And then I was giving instructions on how to successfully move past that rudeness. But then there'd be a bunch of guys.
Yeah, I mean, he may have overly rationalized. You know what I mean? Like he may have overly rationalized. That's why he was like looking at Evo Psych and all this other shit, and he thought that he could treat the relationship between men and women and the dynamics as some kind of game that he could literally min-max and number crunch on and then get the best results and optimize, and it's the you can't account for like the nature of women to that degree. Like you have to, there has to be other things taken into account, and I think that he tried to essentially just make the perfect build for picking up women, and maybe he had some success with it, but it's not absolute. That's just not the way things work. So anyway, just wanted to say that. Let's play more of the video.
Guys in the comments saying, why should I have to put up with this in the first place? Why is it okay for women to be rude to me? But I just kept focusing on the practical. And sadly, all of my explanations for female behavior, it just sounded like justifications, excuses for women's disrespect. All of my advice on how to overcome this, it had the effect of making men feel like I was just ignoring how outright unpleasant this is to deal with, placing the responsibility on men once again to do the work. Doesn't matter how rude women are, how ridiculous their standards, how entitled their personalities. Men, it's on you to find a way to.
They're just a boss fight.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah, it's on you to find a way instead of just saying, nope, this isn't worth it. And I think I think that maybe some of the, because I'm seeing this a bit more, the pickup artists and the red pill guys being like sort of turning around on this whole idea that a man must judge his self-worth by women. And I know sometimes they give lip service to not doing that, but it doesn't seem to be very deep. But anyway, I think part of the reason why they're doing this is because there seems to be a sea change. Men are just not into it anymore. And they're just or they've just done a rational, pragmatic analysis of what they get and what they have to give, and they're like, if I have to play, if what I'm going to be doing is the equivalent of playing Dark Souls for dating, why don't I just play Dark Souls?
Dark Souls is a walk in the park. It's a lot easier. So I would just do that. Yeah. But I mean, because like in Dark Souls, when you die, you can try to get your souls back. You can try again. So, but yeah, it's I mean, I think this guy's speaking facts, and I'm glad that he's saying it. It needed to be said. I'm glad that he's not making excuses for women. That's what has to stop. So
yeah, not making excuses, and then let's start blaming them a bit. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's hold them a little accountable.
Yeah,
all right, but let's keep going.
Fire,
a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Suck it up to figure it out.
Guys, can you ask us out in person? No more DMs, none of that. Girls love to get asked out in person. It doesn't happen anymore. Please come up to us. We're nice. The worst we're gonna say is no.
No.
Moments later.
Like a lot of world problems would be solved if men just like
cease to exist.
Yeah.
I know that some of my past videos on this topic have really pissed off some guys. All I can say is that I was sincere, and I'm sorry, I did not see it. That's how it is with bias and with blind spots. You don't know what you don't know.
And this is why the audience, not the special chat audience, you guys are special, but our actual audience is unique. You guys saw this. You saw, and you can see the world in terms of the consequences of women's actions. You can actually recognize women as moral agents who should do better and be better. This is something that the average man struggles with, in my opinion. I mean, I think it's becoming less and less as more content is pointing this stuff out. And these
Well, men
pragmatic
kind of buy into the bullshit, the same narrative though,
Yeah.
that men have all this power and that if they're not getting, women or numbers or dates or sex or
Yes.
whatever, it's their fault. There's something you're not doing right. And any man who is disinterested, like a MGTOW, those guys should be shamed and blamed because, they're cowards, they're incels, they're not stepping up, whatever it is.
Yes.
But the reality is exactly that video that he just played, where women are saying, well, men, you should be able to approach us, while simultaneously believing that men are the reason for all of the suffering in the world and throughout history. And they don't actually even have a desire or impulse to even question that, because women can have like two completely contradictory ideas in their head at the same time, and they don't think there's anything wrong with it. And one of the reasons is because nobody told them to like stop being a moron and a child and figure it out. No, I'm serious. Like, we can't, like, I just said that, and I guarantee you people in the special chat are gonna be like, you can't say that about women. That's exactly the problem, guys. Like, I can't say anything about women because people like you are always caping for them. Like,
well, we can.
You're actually not doing them favors. You're actually making their lives harder because they never find out the consequences of their bullshit actions until it's so severe that there's no turning back from it. So what I'm trying to do is tell them the truth so that they don't suffer or put other people through unnecessary suffering. I mean, look at, like, there was just this video I saw. Well, I didn't see the video, but there was a woman who was on a OnlyFans thought, right? And she bought into this thing. I don't know what it is, some sex positive empowerment thing. And she like had sex with 100 guys in like 24 hours. And she caught like 3 different STDs. And then she was being interviewed for, like a documentary. And she's crying about how like awful it is. And that like she wishes that like this didn't happen. Of course, everybody's spinning it like, well, those 100 men, those guys are obviously the bad guys in this story. And it's like, what? No, she did that to herself.
Yes.
She did that to herself for money. This is what I'm saying, guys. Like, women create the opportunities to make these terrible mistakes. And when you guys just come in and say, well, this is obviously the men's fault, you're just setting them up for more failure. The women, that is. So, like, at some point, we have to talk to women like they're adults. Why can't you do that?
And if they hadn't done it, would that be their failure too?
Yeah, but if they didn't step up and be like number 98, like, would that be like, again, like, I wouldn't want anything to do with that. But thirsty dudes exist. So why do we like, well, I'm not going to excuse that. But at the same time, whores exist too. So it's like, what we want to like try to, I don't know, like just treat people like adults. And I include women in that. That's not sexist.
Yeah, no. Honestly, what the hell did she think was going to happen? She's a moron. And possibly it'll solve itself depending on the type of STDs that she got. She may have destroyed her fertility.
Yeah.
Well, Darwin Award time. Sorry, it's like
yeah.
We
got like chlamydia and gonorrhea and something else. And I was like, you're surprised? And none of them wear a condom? What the fuck? Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Her ovaries are probably rotting like kumquats. Like,
I don't know, man. I'm just saying, like, this isn't these are adults.
I'm sorry,
like,
this is just freaking hilarious to me. Am I supposed to feel bad for her? And how could anybody be like, oh, the men are to blame? No, she is. She is to blame. But it's a self-correcting thing. As long as people are like, nope, you fucked around and you found out, lady. You fucked around and you found out. Next time, don't take advice from idiots. Oh, good Lord. Anyway.
All right, I got a super chat.
With any luck, she won't be breeding. So there you go.
Well, probably not now. I mean, she's probably tortured by what she did. But it has to start with, this is why we have confession. It starts with you saying, I did this. Not they did this to me. I did this. That's where it starts. That's the only way you're going to change. But anyway, I got a super chat from Albert Native Retro who gives us $2 Canadian, says, Once a PUA, always a piece of garbage. Then I got a super chow from Zeranx, and he says, on the subject of blind spots, thank you, Brian, for bringing it up because I was going to. The amount of people trying to put her in the victim category pisses me off and alarms me at the same time. I don't think they realize what they're saying. Men and women, both about women and their position in society. I feel like they're the real degenerates. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like we want people, I think people should want to behave in a virtuous way, but we have to treat men and women somewhat the same. I mean, I'm going to treat them the same if I can, but we already don't have a problem generally holding men accountable for bad behavior, which is fine. But we should also be able to hold women accountable for bad behavior and stop blaming these abstract, systemic things like patriarchy, because that's how these women get out of like looking inside themselves to being like, what do I got to do to be a better person? How do I change? As long as you have something to blame that's not you, you're just going to keep making mistakes.
Yeah. And then you pair that with giving women, like women are the ones who have the greatest control over their own lives. So we give them complete control over their own lives and absolutely no feedback onto how to manage that power over their own lives. Like no, if anything bad happens to you, just blame patriarchy and keep going.
Yep. Like all liberty, none of responsibility.
And what happens? Women are miserable because they get into these situations and they have no clue how to get out of them because nobody has given them feedback. Nobody's given them an instruction manual to freedom. Like, and as far as I know, the Bible doesn't say, but these commandments don't apply to women. Like,
no,
we are supposed to be held to the same ethical standards, right? The same ethical standards, the same expectation of autonomy. I don't think the Bible says no, women can do whatever the hell they want and men are to blame. So don't look to it for that. All right, let's keep going.
All right, let's play the video some more.
Let me tell you now that I can see it. I see it very clearly. This dating market is fucked up. At its core, the whole thing is fucked. We have allowed our culture to degenerate to the point where women feel like it is okay to treat men with disrespect, to be rude, to be insulting. A kind, polite man said...
In a way, though, I don't think he's driving the point home enough. It's not just rudeness. I think men can take that. I think that there's like a serious, like, women are expected to treat men as enemies in a war. And that is obviously, like, it's actually that women have been conditioned against their own nature. Like, they're conditioned to treat men as the enemy and babies as essentially inconveniences that need to be destroyed. That's and I don't think that's what women like really want in their heart of hearts, but that's what they've been conditioned to think. And it doesn't just play out in rudeness. Okay. Although I get that that's sort of like maybe that's because he is like a relationship coach. That's his particular focus. But it certainly doesn't end with just a woman being rude because men don't care about mean words on the internet. It's women crying about cat turd. Right. So,
yeah.
Anyway. Cat turd is base though. All right, let's play some more.
Says hello to you, he's being friendly, it's fine to just ignore him or just be bitchy for the entire conversation. No manners, no etiquette, no respect, no affirming of his right to dignity. That's fucked up. It shouldn't be this way, and it doesn't have to be. Yes, you can look smacks like crazy. You can learn game. You can become the perfect seduction guy who knows every little trick. Perfect frame control, the ability to successfully navigate through all her blockades. And then maybe you might be lucky enough to find your way into a conversation where she is being friendly to you. But that is a ridiculous standard to hold men to. Why?
Yep. Allison, are you still fighting with people on the...
Yeah, a little bit. No, I'm actually just looking at the main chat, the chat of the people with an IQ above like 2 digits.
85.
Yeah. But okay, I agree, and I also agree with what you're saying. It's not just rudeness, it's a lot of other stuff that needs to be curtailed. It's all of the powers in the family courts. It's all of the ability to engage in abuse and sexual violence against men with no reprisal at all, not even social censure. Look at like what's that woman, Amy Schumer?
Oh God.
Oh God, disgusting.
The
Anyway,
one who built her career on being a sleut. Although I don't think she's getting any work these days. So good luck, Amy Schumer, wherever you are.
well, there's worse things than
I hear
being a
UPS
sleut.
is hiring.
She was also a rapist, as far as I
Mhm.
can tell. So there's that problem.
Cardi B too.
And then there's all of the false accusations and even the accusations that power that women shouldn't have, even if they're not false. The ability to in the UK get a man jailed for approaching them. Right? Like this is all stuff that needs to go. It needs to go. And also we should start seriously shaming women who are afraid of men. I said it. There we
Yeah.
go. Let's go.
All right. Let's keep going with this.
Why isn't being kind enough? Why isn't being friendly and respectful enough? I can imagine an alternative timeline where boys and girls were all raised in healthy families. We live in close communities and everybody has positive self-esteem. Where once you become a man, if you approach a woman at an event, have a conversation with her, maybe ask her to dance, even if it does not work out between the two of you, there is no attraction. At all times, the woman is kind and friendly to you. She does not start off from a baseline hatred of men, distrust, suspicion. She takes no.
Wow, what a world that might be like.
Yeah, I
I
wonder
grew
where
up in
this
a
came
world like
from.
that, I think. I know. And again, I think he might know more than he lets on because his videos, he only gives you like a shorter version of it, and then you have to go to his Patreon to watch the full length version. But when you start the sentence with, if only we like grew up in like an alternate universe where we grow up in healthy families that were loving and community oriented, yeah, that's kind of what's missing. Like that's one of the things that's definitely missing. So, and I think that that's one of the things that might be the case is that women with daddy issues are probably more suspicious and distrustful of men, and they're set up to be that way because their fathers are absent, and that sort of like paints or colors their impression of men in general, and they make poor choices when it comes to men. They don't vet them, so they end up with men who are bad for them, and then they think that that's just what men are like, and that's me being very charitable to those women. But the truth is women do pick those men, and their mothers who kept their fathers out of their life also chose those men as well. So this isn't just about blaming men, because the women are the ones that decide who they reproduce with, who they lay down with, and we can't treat women like children. They make decisions. So ladies have to be better about vetting guys, and then when they do that, this is another thing. What women ask for in men is what they get, because men are looking to figure out what women want. So if women say they want, like bad guys that are dangerous and edgy and maybe a little bit violent, like you saw that, that assassin, Allison, that killed the CEO, that there were women all over the internet thirsting after him.
Oh,
Or like those, yeah, of course there were, right? I mean, yeah, the guy was in shape and everything, but like he murdered somebody, so, but like that's what I'm saying. Like if women say this is the kind of man I want, then men are going to respond to that, and they're going to say, well, that's the kind of man I'm going to become. And of course, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I know, and I'm going to add to that. There's actual studies that show that in certain regions of the US, if a man kills another man, his romantic prospects improve. So yes, 100% women, the hibistrophilia is a problem. Is that how you say it?
oh yeah, the hibistrophilia, yeah, I think that's
Something
right.
like that. Okay, these are some rarefied words, but yeah, so I totally agree. And yes, men will become what women ask of them, because that's how mate selection works with mammals. Yeah, like there's nothing I disagree with, except that I would say that there's also a huge component of a particular narrative that we've fallen in love with in our society, that men oppress women, which, if you think about it, frames manhood as those men who are the most sociopathic are the most masculine. Which, that seems to be like an unfortunate effect
Oh
of
yeah,
feminist bullshit. So, all right,
yeah,
let's
absolutely. All right, let me see. I feel like there was a super chat or something that I missed. No, I guess not. Okay, let's continue.
No pleasure in rejecting men. In this alternative timeline, all women are polite, kind, respectful, friendly. Women value
know their
men and
fathers.
men value women. Men do not view women just as a means to have sex. Hookup culture is not a thing. Dating is much more straightforward because the purpose is clear. The goal is for everybody to partner up. Dating is not for people to get ego boosts. It's not for distracting people from their boredom. Dating is not used for free dinners or to masturbate using another person's body. In this timeline, dating is simple, uncomplicated, wholesome. Men don't need to put on an act. They can be themselves. They can be nice to women and feel confident that women are not going to interpret that niceness as weakness.
One thing that I think would help is if women realize that when a man approaches you, that does not mean he's going to have sex with you. Like that and maybe this is just me, but the way that I view male attention is that they have an interest and maybe an attraction that doesn't mean that they want to have sex with me. There's a lot of steps that go in between being approached to in the bedroom. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things, like you can do things in terms of your behavior to turn them off, your smell, and so it's
Well,
just
your pheromones. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
like
it's
the
just
thing
it's
is
just
that I think the birth control pill really messed things up too because it
I know,
screwed
what I'm
up
trying
with
to get at
women's.
is I think it would
Yeah,
really
sorry. Go
help if
ahead.
women didn't have the default setting that every man wants to have sex with them, even and in particular the ones that come near them. I think that the better default setting is that they have an interest that may lead to sex or it may not. If you see what I'm saying? And I
Mhm.
think that actually, because I've never been the kind of person that was arrogant enough um to think that everybody who expressed any kind of interest in me was interested in having sex with me. Like it just seemed like an incredibly arrogant position to take, you know? But and I find that when I personally have a lot less resentment towards men in general than a lot of women who do come from that default setting of every man wants to have sex with me. And obviously, if a man approaches me, he wants to grape me. Okay, all right, let's keep going.
All right, I got a super chat from Albernator Retro, who gave us $2 Canadian again and said Amy and the guy from Townsend University, and then he
Yes.
gives us another super chat for $5 Canadian and says Jeremy Meeks was the convicted women flipped over. He got a modeling contract and might be acting as well. All right, let
Yeah, but
us.
even Sao Wei is actually participating in a much more productive way and says, well, you can tell the difference between a man who has a sexual interest. Well, even if he initially does have a sexual interest, I would not assume that is necessarily going to result in sex.
Yeah, or
Like,
anything dangerous for that matter.
or
I
anything
mean,
dangerous.
what's the context? Like if you go to like I don't know, a party in Florida and you're a woman at a party in Florida, everyone's drinking, everyone's in the hot tub. Maybe you don't have any interest in hooking up with anybody at the time. Men are going to approach you and a lot of them are probably going to want to sleep with you. You can still say no. Like no one
Yes.
like but you're still in that position. Like you go to
Mhm.
a slutty Halloween party and you're wearing your cat costume, which is obviously a slutty cat costume, and you're a woman, and a man approaches you dressed as Zorro or something, he's probably trying to bang you. That's okay. That's the society we have, thanks to the sexual revolution of the 1960s. But that doesn't mean that you're doomed to participate, and it doesn't make that guy a bad person because he's participating in it. You
Well,
went to the party and you got drunk there, or you're planning to.
But also
So
it is situational. If a man comes up to you in a in a in like a Starbucks and says hi, I mean, a lot of women would immediately go to, this man wants to have sex with me.
yeah,
Whereas my attitude
or
was
you could
this,
be in line at the DMV.
yeah, this man maybe has a sexual interest in me, but that doesn't mean that even he would eventually go to that point. If it makes sense. Like I recognize that the man is also, sort of like in a position of choosing, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And as a consequence of that, I am not one of the very incredibly, actually surprisingly large minority of millennial women that have raped men with weapons. Like, well, I guess they just assumed as soon as he approached them that it was a consent all the way down. You know what I mean? But like it just seems to me very arrogant to take away someone's autonomy. That's what it strikes me as. So if a guy approaches you in Starbucks, you're actually taking away an aspect of his personhood and his autonomy to assume the entirety of his motives, the fact that the motives won't change, and that he wants exactly what you think he wants. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
like, no, you're still dealing with an entity that has a whole bunch of different factors that they're juggling, and one conclusion may be sex, and 100 other conclusions may be friendship, and one conclusions may be directions to the nearest gas station. Another conclusion could be a romantic relationship. Another conclusion could be marriage. There's a whole spread of probabilities, and to reduce it down to one is contemptuous of men. To reduce it down to, well, hit it and quit it, contemptuous of men. To reduce it down to grape is basically demonizing men. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
I know
play
I
more
can
of
be
the
really
video.
confusing.
That's all right.
Men can relax, knowing that women in this timeline do not take pleasure in humiliating men.
I know there's a saying that it's a numbers game, but there's also a saying that says stay in your lane. And I just feel like some of the creatures that come up to me with the confidence they have, a man really came up to me at the gas station and said, "You caught my eye. How about we close him? Keep him sealed tight. Shut, actually. Because I'm here to fill up my gas."
Dating should not be like this. It just shouldn't. How things are right now, how men are treated by women, it's fucked up. There are a bunch of guys out there who are struggling, and it's not their fault. The game was
I'm pretty sure that-
massively rigged against them.
Can I just point something out? I'm pretty sure her skin isn't actually the consistency of like a silicone.
Oh,
So
she's quite a few filters deep.
she's quite
in
a few
that.
filters deep.
that's like 5 or 6 filters deep in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
like,
a lot
she's
of plugins and expansions on there. She modded herself.
Sex doll but the other thing is that it's so judgmental. Oh, these creatures come up to me. Really? Okay, so what are you
she
judging
called
the
men
basic-
creatures. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's basically saying that they're ugly. So she is.
That's very well. There are men there are men that she wants to have approach them, and then there's normal men. Like there's basically like the men that she wants to be able to allow to approach her, which is 1% of men, and then there's the creeps, which is all the other men. So, and those guys, I mean, we don't even know who this guy was, and we'll never know. But what we do know is that he wasn't good enough to speak to her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm actually looking at a comment in the Discord now. I'm not looking at the special chat. But yes, it's
And
like
for so long,
okay, this is what I was saying to Alex's sake. How much of this messaging do men get? Don't approach us. You're creatures. You're disgusting. We're going to treat you with contempt. And it's like, we're going to see you in terms of we're going to reduce you down to what we think is your most base impulses. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I resist doing that. Like when a guy would theoretically approach me, which, I'm talking about years ago, right? I wouldn't look at him like, oh, he's approaching me for this incredibly low base thing. I'd just be like, okay, well, let's see what's going to happen. Options are open. So it's a whole spread, like, and I just can't see reducing men down in such a crass way. And then the other thing is that if this woman gets treated in a crass way by men, is it not sort of deserved? Like, you're already dehumanizing these men, and let's use the class, the thing that women seem to all talk about, manifesting. If when a man approaches you, you see him in the crassest, basest, most sexualized term, what are you manifesting?
Yeah. You get what you put out, I guess.
Yes.
All right, let's play some more.
I could not see it because when it came to the topic of shit tests and women being rude to men, I was too busy focused on how to overcome that, thinking of practical strategies to beat the game. And I forgot to stop and take notice of just how fucked up the game is that we are all playing.
Toxic or boring relationship?
Toxic.
Toxic. Oh, toxic, definitely. It just makes it more fun.
Just makes it more fun. It's more fun.
In this culture, we have women consciously choosing to be with bad men, which of course has the predictable consequence after you are treated badly of turning you bitter. Then, when a regular, nice man approaches them, from that bitterness, they feel entitled to be rude and suspicious. That situation is fucking ridiculous. And yes.
You're putting it on the man. Maybe the woman is being an asshole because she's trying to get what she wants out of the next man. Like,
well, I mean, Allison, the bad men do exist.
I know bad men exist.
When women reward those men,
so do bad women. Like,
yes, of course. Yes, of course. I'm not saying they're made bad by those men. I'm saying that bad men exist, and if women choose the bad men, and then those bad men color the women's opinions of all men, that's a problem. But it kind of starts with her, because she ultimately is the one that's not vetting people. I mean, I don't want to bring it up, but like, for example, we know Lauren Southern is a terrible judge of character because of her involvement with Destiny. I'm just saying, that's like, I don't see how anyone could make that mistake other than a woman like Lauren Southern. Like, how do you do that? Yes, Destiny.
She was involved
like that guy. She was. Yeah.
Have I missed some gossip?
No, this happened like a while ago, but
no. You can't just like put that gossip out, just dangle it. Elaborate. She was involved with Destiny?
Yes. I think it was because she was like, I get a clout thing, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, Destiny.
Oh
yes,
God.
Destiny is atrocious. Yes, absolutely. And you'll notice that. Well, you know what? I feel like that's a whole other conversation that we shouldn't have. But I'm sorry for dropping that in there. I thought you guys knew that. It came out that Lauren Southern was having a fling with Destiny, while, by the way, she was married to somebody else. And like the Fed that she married, and there was a child involved.
The Fed. I thought you were talking about
no. She was married. No, that was a different guy. But if you look at like her,
what a disaster. That's like as bad, or
she doesn't have a great track record with men, and I don't know if it's because but I'm just saying, like, even people that we would have thought were based women, they lose the plot. And
can I tell you something?
Yeah,
I think the only truly based women that seem to be consistently so are men's issues advocates, and I'm not even saying all of them are, but you really have to have contended with this idea of taking responsibility as a man, as a woman, stopping blaming men for everything, and allowing yourself to take some blame as a woman. You have to have done that emotional work to really not end up in these weird pretzels. Like, I was thinking, like, so, okay, let me get this straight. Lauren Southern married a Fed who told her he was a Fed, and she found him exciting because of all his Feddy powers. And then when she got divorced, she was like, wow, he was a Fed. That's why I had to divorce him. Yeah, but that's why you married him. Anyway. And then she was actually cheating with him? cheating on him with Destiny. Okay, I mean,
According to some, I mean, like I also heard that she had been like jumping on the cock carousel all over the right on on YouTube, like all of the various people. I remember her making a video where she tried to throw some MRA under the bus, like that was working on the Red Pill documentary a while ago, and also Paul Joseph Watson, according to her, made a pass at her. But like Paul Joseph Watson has his own kids, and I don't know. I mean, all I know is that Lauren Southern has a bad track record.
I mean, that's
all I'm saying.
That's worse than Michaela Peterson.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
and having
I forgot about that
becoming,
too.
having the child of a Russian wizard of some kind, like Rasputin.
Yeah.
Having
Rasputin's Antichrist baby.
God damn. I'm sorry.
It's amazing what happens to people when they get their egos stroked enough. Like they just the clout just becomes like an addiction, you know.
I thank God that's never happened to us.
Yeah.
I'm just okay. This is venal. Okay, let's
all
move
right.
on.
Yeah. This is base. All right. So anyway,
I put the blame on women. Ladies, nobody is forcing you to date toxic men. Your bitter attitude is your own fault. Now you might say, well, that's unfair.
So there you go. So he doesn't actually really put the blame on men. He does make it clear that he is saying. Now, I think that you could make the argument that there's we're dealing with multi-generational trauma that goes back. Like if a woman is growing up in this society, like a Zoomer woman is looking and maybe she doesn't know her dad, or she doesn't have maybe her parents are divorced and she doesn't see her dad ever or very rarely, or whatever it is, or maybe the dad just isn't a good man because her mom also made bad choices, whatever. This can be generations down without like a good man to model behavior for women to look for in men and for men to emulate in themselves, and also not having a good model mother, because there are people with mother issues, boys and girls as well, that model motherhood and femininity in a way that women want to copy and men want to seek out. Then you're going to have a couple generations down, because remember, dating is a recent phenomena in human history. It's only like 100 years old or something, and considering how long we've been around, so it's a new thing. Normally, our parents were very involved with who we were friends with and who we associated with and who we met and who we knew. But that's changed, especially now that we have the internet and people are meeting people from anywhere in the world. So it's completely changed the dynamics of getting to know people. But we've lost the model. The ideal model, and we've also abandoned the idea that there is an ideal model thanks postmodernism. Just to bring up that little thing that Ad used to tell us all the time, we've lost what it meant to have a model because we think everything is subjective anyway.
Or we could at least have a standard if we can't have a model.
Yeah, but a standard requires objectivity still. So yes, we could have a standard. What I'm saying is that we've abandoned all of that. So when women say, I want toxic relationships, we're not allowed to say that's stupid and you're a moron for saying that. We have to basically well, it's your opinion, I guess. Like everybody feels the same. But the thing is, the truth always comes out anyway. So if you have a woman who wants to get involved with like criminals and drug dealers and pimps and dangerous men, and you have another woman that's choosing to like go out with righteous men or whatever, and then you track that over 10 years, and guess what? Their lives are probably going to be in different places, because even though you may have had your preferences, it doesn't change potential outcomes for said preferences.
No, it doesn't. And sure, women can have their preferences to date okay, you can go ahead and date Wade Wilson, but let's not make it a crime for having him kill you.
Yes,
I know there'll still be a crime.
It would be a crime. Yeah.
Yeah. But seriously, at what point do we have to underwrite women's terrible choices, knowing that they make terrible choices out of some fucked up urge towards self-destruction? that men also have, but we generally, if men go date a serial killer of women, or sorry, of men, like we usually are like, you probably have earned it if you end up dead. Like you were a contributing factor in that, so maybe take responsibility for it. But we don't do that with women. Somehow we're like, Wade Wilson, through some sort of weird legal chicanery, gets free. A woman starts dating him, ends up dead, and we'll be like, oh my God, who could ever have predicted such a horrible thing? How could she have known? She can't be held responsible. He just was. How could she possibly known that he would? Because we don't want to admit that she's responsible. Like, she made a choice that is we consider to be unaesthetically pleasing. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, I got a super chat though from Albert Native Retro for $2 Canadian, and he says,
Okay.
"Lauren and the D Man. Well, I'd be a sure thing. Sorry, but I doubt it. You're not clout. You don't have enough clout, Albert. That's what I think it comes down to. All right, let us.
Even though you
continue.
validated our existence, you probably wouldn't be able to validate.
No, you
Lauren's.
have to have, and if you have enough clout, it doesn't matter what kind of person you are. All right, but anyway, let's play more of the video.
What about the toxic man? What about his responsibility? If he didn't treat her badly, then none of this would be a problem. No, you still don't get it. If he didn't treat her badly, then she wouldn't be interested. These women are specifically attracted to toxic men. That's the point. I know from my own life, during my teenage years, I was my authentic, nice guy self, and I had moderate success. But when I learned game and I started teasing women, not texting back, seeing multiple girls at the same time, leaning into my cockiness, guess what? When I did that, my options exploded. My guess is that for all of the genuine bad boys out there, there's just as many men who would have been nice guys if they had been sexually rewarded for doing so. But they listened to women's actions, not their words.
And but honestly, I don't think you should call those guys out. If this is okay, let me put it this way. If this is, I read an actually self-aware comment once from a woman who was pushing back against anti-pickup artist sentiment. And what she said was, I'd rather the pickup artists teach men who are decent how to be superficially attractive to me, so that I have like more options, or I can actually have a man, I can actually be aware of a man who would be a decent partner, than have these men not do it. So the issue is that if becoming this makes you more superficially attractive in the social sphere, well, first of all, don't do anything against your actual like morals or your ethics or who you are. But if you learn social confidence and that makes you more attractive, I think that's fine. One of the biggest problems that I never had as much of a problem with the pickup artistry, it was all the condemning of men trying to learn the social skills necessary to attract women, and then being condemned by feminists and media and everyone for it. So there was a standard they were trying to uphold or get up to, and then they were hit with all kinds of false accusations just because nobody wanted to admit that women are attracted to these kinds of guys. You see what I'm saying? They didn't want to challenge they didn't want to see women in an unaesthetic light, in a light that they disapproved. Yep. Like, and it's like, okay, fine. If this is the reality, right? If this is genuinely what women are attracted to, okay, I'm not going to say that women have to change their attractions any more than I'm going to say that men have to change their attractions to fat women. But let's not shame men for developing the skills to elicit this more superficial attraction. In fact, that should have been encouraged. It should have been encouraged for guys who are normal and decent to, I don't know, use pickup artistry to develop those skills that they needed to become attractive to women, right? Like that should have been promoted and encouraged. Instead, it was shamed into freaking destruction. And then what came back was the red pill, which is a lot harder edge. You notice that everything gets a harder edge. Everything gets harder and meaner and less
You're gonna get
forgiving
more of the
women.
behavior that you incentivize. So like
Yes.
this is why I don't like going after the manosphere red pill guys, because they're just responding to women. And so like you can't blame them for using like creating tools to help them.
Yeah, to a
So
point. Like at some point, I mean, at some
but
point they need to also judge women, you know,
well, I
and be
think
able
they
to give
do. I
the
think they do.
boundaries.
So I think they're
But
heading down the same path that
yes,
Alexander Grace here is. So
but what I want
yeah.
to say is that it's fine to want to become more attractive to the opposite sex, right? And it's probably fine if they develop a way of making men who are maybe more conscientious. I think that what it is that conscientious men tend to want to figure out what the rules are and abide by them, which is absolutely necessary for a society that works. Like you can get rid of all of the assholes. You can get rid of every single Wade Wilson. You can get rid of every single dark triad dipshit from society. Just flick them like a fucking human booger, all of them out of society, and we would have a completely functional system. We'd probably function better. Just flick them all out.
I bet Wade Wilson was a feminist. I bet he is.
I wouldn't.
He's like Alexander Kopelkov. That was his name.
Oh, don't say his name.
Okay, I won't say it. He's the other Wade Wilson, but
yeah,
the Russian version.
The Russian Wade Wilson. But okay, like you could get rid of all of these men, and we would have an absolutely wonderful society. It would probably improve by leaps and bounds. And where was I going with this? Like, but you cannot get rid of conscientious men. And you cannot get rid of conscientious men, because those are the men who will actually defend their communities, their villages, their towns, their families, while the Wade Wilsons are running their ass off, pissing themselves away from the enemy. Like this you can't have these deceitful con artist cowards, dark triad men. They're useless. Flick them out of society, we'd be better off. So you want the conscientious men to be more attractive. And when I looked at the pickup artists, that's what I saw. They were like, okay, you're a conscientious guy. You're somebody who's probably a pillar of your community. Even if people don't recognize it, you're probably doing good work. You're probably making sure all of the standards are met. You know, I'm going to take you and I'm going to make you attractive to women, and we're going to work on the social skills necessary to do that. They were doing us all. They were doing God's work. And then the feminist nation attacked.
Yep. All right, let's play more of the video.
And you can hardly blame them. Why should any man be single and lonely, martyrs to the nice guy cause? Nope. Men are always going to act the way that women find sexually desirable. Toxic men, bad boys, women, do not complain about them. They are your own creation. For every woman out there who is rude to nice men while sexually rewarding bad boy jerks, this is your fault. You need to fix this.
I was gonna say that was just something I meant to add. That is a saying I heard that I bring up, and it's not something that is an ought. It's just an is. Okay, men move in the shadow of women's desire. When women say they're looking for something in a man, men try to become that thing. So if women say they want toxic relationships with men who neg them and tease them and whatever, then guess what? That's what you're gonna get. So
you know what else?
men move in the shadow of women's desire.
That's a good way of putting it. I was thinking about this too. I think something else that maybe is moving away from like the sexual interaction between the sexes. I think women give meaning to why we're here in this realm. Does that make sense? Like and I was thinking about this because I look at like Mount Athos, and you look at like Buddhist monk groups, and most of them, like Mount Athos in particular, I'll pull out. They live, and they live with grace, and they live with gratitude, but they live with this relationship to their own death, if that makes sense. This idea that this world is transient and what they're living for is to be received in the afterworld and into the kingdom of heaven, right? So it's like this community of men is almost detached from the material world. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying it seems to be something that men do more of, is detach from the material world. They detach from the material. They can detach from the material world to turn around and then investigate the material world. You know, they can detach from all kind of like from family and community in order to do like physics, like Isaac Newton. So it's almost like this idea of detachment from the material. And I think what women do when they're not total see you next Tuesdays. I was about to say the C word.
I think I've
is
already said that on the stream twice, so
okay, well, but what
or
women
maybe
do
some other word that's just as bad. But anyway, go
that's
ahead.
valuable, that's socially valuable, is they bring that connection back to the material. So what is important about the work that we do here in this world? And I mean, I think what we're looking at is, for a long time, women had it on easy mode because obviously the material work is survival, right? Now that's gone. They don't know what the hell, and they're seeking the answer that they need to find in themselves in their relationship with men, which is distorting everything. And that's my philosophical concept for the day. I think men bring this energy of not getting too attached to the material, and women bring this energy of what is the point of the material. All right. Okay. And I think we got a
Yeah,
really shallow society, honestly.
we do. We do.
Yeah.
We live in very shallow and materialistic times. Okay, I got a super chat from Xeranx for $5. Thank you, Xeranx. And he said, "This is what I've referred to as Adam Eve syndrome. It's exactly as Brian said. Men move in the shadow of women's desire."
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, it's like Karen used to say, if women demanded that men learn how to walk on their hands, men would do it. Um, and it's just because they want to please women. And you could say that this is backwards and that men, you know, like one of the things that you'll hear a lot is that if men lead, women will follow. But the problem is
I
that
said a long time ago, I quoted, I think it was oh, she was one of the like the 40s big stars.
Mae West.
Mae West.
Yeah,
She
Mae West.
said, when women go bad, men go right after them. And it's so right. But that's another way of saying it. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, you know, like that maybe there is like this idea that if men lead, women will follow, and that like the sin of Adam, if we just to talk a little bit about that, was that he did not he tried to pass the buck when God showed up and said, "Did you guys eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge?" And Adam said, "Well, she made me do it." And that's like his sin was to instead of basically telling Eve no, which is like the first thing that he did wrong was when she said, "Hey, I had some of this fruit. Do you want some?" And he's like, "Sure." That was his mistake. so, so that's why the original sin falls on both. Was that Adam did he agreed to go along with it, and when God showed up and asked him, you know, what was going on, he didn't. He tried to pass the buck and say it's her fault. But the thing is that we live in a time now where women are they are afforded a tremendous amount of power, and they could use it to build men up or to tear them down, and they're tearing them down right now. So, but anyway, I got another super chat from Albert Nada Retro for $2 Canadian again. He says, "These are simps, not men." I don't think that's fair. I think they are in fact men. But anyway, let's move on. I'm gonna play the video.
And once again, I am so sorry for my earlier videos, which had the indirect effect of shaming men, telling them that it's their responsibility to do this or that, to try and overcome all of this rudeness from women. I was trapped by the limitation of my own experiences. I can see that now. But it's obvious to me now that the expectation that men have some kind of obligation to overcome these ridiculous hurdles is in and of itself sexist. That women are allowed and encouraged to display this kind of behavior towards men is sexist. It is not your fault that you were born a man and into a culture that devalues and dehumanizes you to this degree. And I don't think that you should feel ashamed of yourself because you don't have the stomach to tolerate this kind of disrespect. I used
Mm.
Yep.
Yep.
Shouldn't have to put up with that. And it's
No.
good that they're not. And I think that's being reflected in the data. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the problem is that we need to get to those guys and try to raise their spirits, because it's a lot of them are quitting just out of just depression, not depression, but just, I know it's pragmatic, but it's also despondent, right? It's like, what next? What now? You know, now the meaning of the world is gone. So what you end up happening is there are men who are just no longer participating in society as well. I mean, even beyond MGTOW, the quiet quitting, the not doing anything at work, that kind of stuff, trying to do as minimum in terms of productivity, and everything. Every bit of that just slows everything down and makes us all poorer. And and doing it because you have a calling to something more is different than doing it because your reward no longer exists. You see what I'm saying? And I think that it's important that the men who are recognizing this and realize that they do have something very valuable, which is the fact that they are able to recognize this. I mean, it takes a lot. It takes a lot for a guy to actually start questioning how identity has been constructed in our society and how men are supposed to be dependent on women for their identity, and start questioning all that. Takes a sort of a uniquely I don't know what the right adjective is, uniquely stubborn person. But anyway, I guess we can finish it off.
That's base. I mean, like, I don't think there's anything else, but here, I'll play a little bit more of it.
Okay.
used to think that men who did not learn game or seduction techniques were cowards. And maybe that's true in some cases. But now I see it more like maybe those guys have some self-esteem. They respect themselves too much to participate in such a degrading activity, having to pass shit tests. As you can see, my thoughts are always evolving. I've been thinking about this a lot, and the fact that those old videos are still sitting there, that really bothers me. They don't really reflect my current thoughts, and so I wanted to do like a type of update. So what about you?
All right. Well, yeah, that's kind of him wrapping it up. But basically, he says that he's leaving the videos up because they might still be useful to some people, but that his sort of view that it's always on the man to figure it out is basically he's like aware that this is incomplete. So
I would
but he
say,
leaves his own videos up anyway.
okay, I would say that I think it's fine to want to be able to become more attractive to the opposite sex, even if it requires some self-sacrifice and personal work, right? Not eating all the profiteroles and going to the gym, for women, not just men. I think that's fine. It's perfectly, if men want to learn the social skills necessary to become attractive to women, I think that's perfectly fine. When it becomes a problem is when it's endless. Like when it at no point do you say, well, do you really want this creature in your life? I'll use that woman's term back at her. Like, do you really want that piece of shit that can't even exist without 5 filters on her fucking face? Do you really want that in your life? And I mean, it would be good for pickup artists to or people involved in this to be able to make that distinguishment between, yeah, it's fine to want to be more attractive to the opposite sex. It's fine to make an effort to become attractive to the opposite sex, to better yourself. But there's also a good amount of room for, is it worth it for the women that are available now? You know,
Yeah,
that
it's
makes
a good
sense.
question. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Is it worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Well, anyway, that's the end of the video. He just basically like ends it by saying, you know, there's more to this video, and this is just like a short version. You have to go to his Patreon and watch everything else. So
Mhm.
that's basically the end of it. But there is another video. I don't know if you want to do
I thought,
another
oh,
one, or we
that's
could
right.
do it save for another show.
Yeah, let's save it for
Yeah.
another show because I'm
Okay.
dealing with.
Yeah.
This is why
Really cold.
we had to move the show forward.
Uh-huh.
My car's doors froze. And so we actually had to drive to the Badger Cave, and my husband was like holding his door closed because water probably got in the mechanism and it wasn't engaging properly. So he has to put it into the shop to actually figure it out. I think he told me that he might have to take it off the hinges and like disassemble the door to just get all the water out of it or something. But yeah, that's why this started a little late. I mean, a little later than it usually does because I know we always start late, but yeah, so it's quite cold and I don't know if I really want to. The other thing that happens when it gets cold here is the internet goes out because hoarfrost gathers on the lines and then breaks them.
Yeah, it's a good thing you guys that didn't happen. So
Yes. So maybe let's not push it.
yeah,
So-
that's right.
Okay, I would like to thank everyone who supported us with your super chows. I'll go see if there's any thank yous, and I do have a big thank you for Anonymous, who once again put in 2,000 smackaroonies.
What? Holy shit, dude! I don't even think I have a soundbite good enough for that.
Yeah, we need to figure that out. Like,
Are you not entertained?
we need to get a good soundbite for him for that.
Yeah, maybe he has a favorite thing he wants to listen to. I have another one that's another Gladiator quote here.
Conjure magic for them and they'll be distracted. We take away their freedom and still their war. The beating heart of Rome is not the marble of the Senate. It's the sand of the Colosseum.
That's
You bring
depressing.
them death, and they will love him for it.
Wow.
Well, it's a quote from Gladiator. So
Well, honestly, it does ring true. It seems like both men and women sort of have that death urge.
Rome is the mob, is what he said.
Yeah.
At that time, at least. So
All right. So thank you to Anonymous for that. And if you want to support the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to support us and send a tip and also be able to just send a message with it, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. So those are the two options for supporting us at this time. And thank you all for joining. Thank you for your attention. Back to you, Brian.
okay, well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we talked about in the show today. You can find a link to the original video in the description. Show Alexander Grace some grace and tell him, that you're grateful that he's like sort of like waking up to this stuff. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's show, and we will talk to you guys in the next video. See you later.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.